First Contact and Betrayal. Captain Alina Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the ESV Endeavour, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel. Through the massive view screen, she watched as the alien ship approached, a sleek construct of gleaming purple-black metal that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the distant starlight. Its graceful curves and impossible angles spoke of technology centuries beyond humanity's reach. "They're transmitting again, Captain," Communications Officer Reza Nazari announced, his voice steady despite the historic moment unfolding around them. "Same frequency, but this time there's a data packet attached." Elena nodded, her expression carefully neutral despite the rapid beating of her heart. "Put it through the translation matrix." The crew waited in tense silence as Earth's most advanced AI processed the alien transmission. After 3 long minutes, words began to scroll across the secondary screen. "Greetings, vessels of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederacy, a union of 37 spacefaring civilizations. We have been observing your development and believe the time has come for formal contact. We come in peace and cooperation." 6 months later, Elena found herself in the Grand Hall of the United Nations in Geneva, watching as Secretary General Okafor signed the Treaty of Cooperation with Ambassador Xelat of the Confederacy. The alien diplomat's translucent skin shifted with subtle patterns of light as they pressed their 6-fingered hand into the special biometric pad beside the Secretary General's signature. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for humanity," Okafor announced to the gathered dignitaries and billions watching via broadcast. "The Confederacy has offered to share technology that will eliminate energy scarcity, cure countless diseases, and enable us to travel beyond our solar system. In exchange, we provide access to our unique cultural works, biological diversity samples, and limited mining rights in our outer asteroid belt." Helena glanced at Xelat, noting how the alien's chromatophores rippled with what the translation guide suggested was pleasure. Something about the pattern seemed off, but she dismissed the thought. After all, reading alien body language wasn't her expertise. The next 3 years brought changes beyond even the most optimistic predictions. Confederate medical technology eradicated cancer, heart disease, and most genetic disorders. Their energy systems ended fossil fuel dependence practically overnight. Earth's first interstellar vessel was already under construction using Confederate drive technology. But not everyone celebrated these advancements. Dr. Marcus Osi, formerly Elena's science officer and now leading Earth's primary xenobiology research team, had been growing increasingly concerned. "Their technology is advancing too quickly," he told Elena over dinner in her apartment overlooking the new Chicago arcology. "Every time we master one piece of tech, they immediately offer something more advanced. It's like they're following a playbook." Elena frowned. "You think they're deliberately accelerating our development? Why would they do that?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but I've been comparing notes with researchers studying other Confederate species. Each of them went through nearly identical technological progressions before joining the Confederacy." Before Elena could respond, her comm unit chimed with an urgent tone she hadn't heard since her military days. The message was brief. "Unknown vessels entering solar system. All defense personnel report immediately." Within hours, massive Confederate warships, nothing like the diplomatic and scientific vessels Earth had become familiar with, appeared in orbit. Their weapons ports were open, energy signatures indicating armaments far beyond anything previously revealed. Ambassador Xelat addressed the emergency session of the UN Security Council, but gone was the friendly diplomat. Instead, the alien skin displayed harsh patterns of red and black as they spoke. "The Confederacy has concluded its assessment of humanity," Xelat announced, voice modulator set to a flatter tone than usual. "Your species has been classified as Threat Category Alpha due to your unprecedented rate of technological adaptation and concerning neural architecture. Under Confederacy Protocol 773 Alpha, we are implementing immediate containment measures." Elena watched in horror as the view screen showed Confederate troops deploying across major cities. Their weapons fired pulses that didn't kill but left humans paralyzed and helpless. Massive ships descended to harvest Earth's resources, not just the limited asteroid mining they'd agreed to, but core minerals from the planet itself. "You lied to us," Secretary General Okafor accused, rising from her seat despite security protocols. "All your talk of cooperation." "We did not lie," Zealot interrupted. "We observed, evaluated, and classified. Your species developed theoretical concepts for every technology. We provided in a fraction of the expected time. Your neural plasticity and problem-solving methods are unprecedented in our 12,000 years of interspecies contact. Your fiction imagines countless ways to defeat technologically superior forces. You represent an existential threat to Confederacy stability." As if to emphasize the point, the chamber shook as Confederate weapons struck nearby government buildings. Elena knew similar scenes were playing out worldwide. The comm channels filled with desperate reports. Defense systems mysteriously offline, military installations targeted first, civilian populations being rounded up. "This was always your plan," Elena realized, speaking directly to Zealot. "The technology, the medical advances, you were studying us, learning our weaknesses." The alien skin flickered what the translation guide identified as affirmation. "Standard Confederacy protocol for potentially dangerous species. We elevate your technology to observe adaptation patterns while installing control mechanisms. Your species adapted too quickly and unpredictably. The Council voted for immediate containment rather than gradual integration." Outside the chamber windows, Elena watched as civilians ran through the streets while Confederate troops methodically rounded them up. Transport ships descended from the larger vessels above, ready to carry away human captives to unknown destinations. The Betrayal, as it would later be called, took less than 72 hours to complete. Earth's major population centers fell under Confederate control. Military resistance crumbled as weapons systems built with alien technology simply deactivated. Nearly 2 billion humans were loaded onto massive transport ships bound for resource planets where their physical capabilities would be properly utilized. Elena managed to escape Geneva during the initial chaos. Using old military channels unconnected to Confederate technology, she contacted other survivors, Marcus among them, and began organizing what would become the first resistance cell. In an abandoned mining facility beneath the Alps, Elena addressed a ragtag group of military personnel, scientists, and civilians who had escaped the initial roundups. "They thought they knew everything about us," she told them, her voice firm despite the desperation of their situation. "They studied our technology, our biology, our history. But there's one thing about humans they clearly misunderstood." "What's that?" asked a young engineer whose family had been taken during the Paris roundups. Elena's eyes hardened as she activated a display showing Confederate patrol routes hacked from their own systems. "We don't give up, and we're about to show them exactly why that was their fatal mistake." The human response. 6 months after the betrayal, humanity was officially classified as a subjugated species in the Confederacy Archive. 90% of Earth's surface had been claimed for resource extraction. The remaining population was confined to designated labor zones. Resistance, according to Confederate reports, was minimal and disorganized. Those reports were wrong. Deep beneath the ruins of MIT, Dr. Marcus O.C. made a discovery that would change everything. He had been analyzing the neural interface technologies the Confederacy used to control their systems when he noticed something peculiar. The interface responds differently to human brainwave patterns, he explained to Elena and the other resistance leaders gathered in the hidden bunker. When Confederates use the technology, it creates a standard connection pattern. But when humans use it, he displayed a holographic comparison of neural patterns, the Confederate pattern neat and organized, the human pattern chaotic, but with unusual connection densities. "Our brains are fundamentally different," he continued. "The Confederacy evolved from similar ancestral species across multiple worlds. But Earth's isolated development produced unique neural architecture in humans. We process information differently, more chaotically, but with unexpected connection patterns. Elena leaned forward. What does this mean for us? Marcus smiled for the first time since the invasion. It means their systems recognize our neural patterns as administrator-level access. We don't just use their technology. We can override it. Using components salvaged from captured Confederate equipment, Marcus and his team developed what they called the Neural Bridge, a headset that amplified the unique properties of human brainwaves when interfacing with Confederate technology. The first test came 3 weeks later when a small resistance team led by Commander Sofia Diaz approached a Confederate processing center in what had once been Barcelona. Sofia wore the prototype Neural Bridge as she concentrated on the facility's security systems. The Confederate technology responded instantly, giving her complete access to everything. Security protocols, guard rotations, even personal communications between officers. I can see everything, she whispered into her comm. It's like the system thinks I'm its creator. The operation freed over 3,000 humans awaiting transport and captured vital Confederate technology intact. Most importantly, they secured additional interface components to build more neural bridges. Similar operations occurred across the globe as resistance cells coordinated through pre-digital communication methods the Confederacy had dismissed as obsolete. Radio signals using constantly changing frequencies, physical message drops, and even Morse code transmitted through power line fluctuations. 8 months after the betrayal, humanity had developed a new style of warfare uniquely suited to their circumstances. Small teams equipped with neural bridges could take control of Confederate systems, redirect their autonomous drones, and even pilot their vessels. The resistance spread to Confederate mining colonies, where humans forced into labor now turned their captors' technology against them. In her command center, now located in a reclaimed Confederate scout ship, Elena studied the tactical display showing resistance activities across Earth and the solar system. What had begun as desperate survival had evolved into a coordinated counteroffensive. They're struggling to understand what's happening, reported intelligence officer Kowalski, who monitored Confederate communications. Their command structure is based on hierarchical consensus. They literally can't process how decentralized human resistance operates. Each time they develop a countermeasure against one of our techniques, we've already developed 3 new approaches. Elena nodded. And the Neural Bridge technology. Version 4.0 is now in distribution, Marcus replied. The latest iteration doesn't just access their systems, it can rewrite core protocols. We've infected their central command network with what they'd probably call a virus, but is actually more like an evolving AI that constantly changes to prevent detection. The Confederate response became increasingly desperate. They attempted to develop countermeasures against the neural bridges, only to find humans had already modified the technology. They tried to isolate their systems, only to discover humans had infiltrated their communication networks at the most fundamental level. The turning point came 13 months after the initial invasion. In a coordinated strike, resistance forces seized control of the Confederate command vessel in Earth orbit. Using captured ships piloted by humans with neural bridges, they'd bypassed defensive systems that registered them as friendly due to their human neural signatures. Elena led the boarding party herself, confronting the Confederate High Commander, a tall crystalline being named Thexar, on the vessel's bridge. Impossible, the alien commander stated as Elena and her team secured the bridge. Our systems should have prevented this intrusion. Your systems were designed by Confederate minds, Elena replied, the neural bridge on her temple glowing softly. They never accounted for how human minds would interact with them. Within hours, the resistance controlled the entire Confederate Earth fleet. Similar uprisings succeeded across Confederate holdings where humans had been transported. The invaders found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their own technology turned against them by the very species they had sought to subjugate. 3 days later, Elena stood before the emergency session of the Confederate Council, transmitted from the captured command vessel. The 23 representatives of the Confederacy's ruling species watched in stunned silence as a representative of what should have been another conquered world addressed them as an equal. The Confederacy made a fundamental error in its assessment of humanity, Alina stated, her voice steady. You saw our adaptability as a threat rather than an opportunity. You chose subjugation instead of true cooperation. That mistake has cost you your invasion force and control of this sector. What are your demands? Asked the council leader, a gaseous entity contained in a crystalline vessel. Humanity will take its place as a free species, Alina responded. All humans will be returned to Earth or colonies of their choosing. The Confederacy will withdraw from our solar system entirely, and moving forward, any interaction with humanity will be on equal terms, not as conquerors and subjects, but as genuine partners. The council conferred briefly before responding. And if we refuse these terms, Alina allowed herself a small smile. The neural bridge technology has given us access to your most sensitive systems across your territory. We've already transmitted the specifications to every world where humans have been taken. We don't want war, but make no mistake, we are prepared to defend ourselves. To demonstrate the point, the lights throughout the Confederate Council chamber flickered briefly, controlled from a neural bridge over 50 light-years away. The message was clear. Humanity would not be contained. In the years that followed, the relationship between humanity and the Galactic Confederacy evolved into something neither side had initially imagined. The Confederacy recognized humans as a sovereign species with protected status. Human neural architecture became one of the most studied phenomena in Confederate science, with cooperative research yielding new technologies that benefited all species. 5 years after the betrayal, Alina stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth vessel Defiance, the first ship built with the hybrid technology that combined Confederate principles with human innovation. Beside her stood Exilat, now serving as liaison between humanity and the Confederacy. Your species continues to surprise us, the alien admitted, skin pattern showing what Alina now recognized as respectful caution. No other species has ever reversed a Confederate containment action. You made a fundamental miscalculation, Alina replied, watching as Earth grew smaller in the view screen as they departed for the Confederate capital world. This time as invited delegates rather than conquered subjects. You saw our adaptability as a threat rather than our greatest strength. A mistake the Confederacy will not make again, Selat acknowledged. Though I must ask, had we approached your world differently, offered true cooperation from the beginning, what might have been possible? Alina considered this as the Defiance prepared for its first faster-than-light jump. A system redesigned and improved by human engineers to be 40% more efficient than the original Confederate design. I suppose, she said finally, we'll have the opportunity to find out. Together. As the ship accelerated beyond light speed, Alina reflected on the strange journey that had brought humanity from near extinction to becoming one of the most respected species in the galaxy. The Confederacy had intended to subjugate humanity, never realizing they were instead creating their greatest potential ally, or their most dangerous adversary. Their mistake had been assuming humanity would respond like every other species they had encountered. They would not make that mistake again.